You are listening to the first ever episode of Morning Mojo with me, Shane Solomon. It's aimed to inspire and motivate you. I've got two wonderful guests to kick us off. I've got Sophie, I've got Laura. I'm going to get straight into it. Sophie, how do you start your day? What is your morning mojo?
Coffee.
Is that right? That's the secret.
Yeah, coffee on the sofa with the cat is how I like to start my day.
And then what? Then where do you go with that?
To the office,
okay,
which is my spare bedroom.
So not a huge commute then?
No, not a huge commute. A lazy walk to the office, yeah.
I've got a lot of time for this. And Laura, for yourself, how do you start your day?
Well, like Sophie, first thing is a coffee. However, I feel like my morning doesn't really start until the kids have been dropped off at school. So I extend the walk back, get the heart pumping a little bit. So I'm feeling, like I'm getting in my zone. And then I go make myself maybe a really nice smoothie or some nice eggs. And then, I start cracking on with work. But
got a lot of time for this. For this. Now, of course, this is going out at 8 o'clock in the morning, every morning, 5 days a week. Huge shout out to my wonderful team, Megan and Jay, working on this podcast as well. It's all about people waking up in the morning, listen to this and think, do you know what? I've got a crappy day ahead. I need to be lifted up a little bit and just take some nuggets from people. Now, I'd look at you two ladies as very successful in your journey so far, and of course I don't know where your ultimate goal is to get to, but what is your words of inspiration to people listening to get somewhere, to where they want to be? I'll start with you, Sophie. What's been your kind of tips to get to where you are?
Something that's really been resonating with me a lot recently is the quote, I don't know who said it, but you miss 100% of the shots that you don't take.
Like it, yeah.
So at this point in my business, I'm really trying to chase some big opportunities, and it can be scary, but without taking those, you don't progress.
So it's taking action, right?
Yeah.
It's taking action. And Laura, for you, what's kind of been your anchor kind of?
I would say something similar, but more on a smaller scale. So it's always about taking action, but making sure that even if every day you can just take one very small action that leads you to your goal, then it's going to snowball over time. So that's what I try to achieve. Even on the days where I'm not feeling so motivated, I just think if I can just tick that really small thing off my list today, I'm going to feel good about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I just want to say a massive thank you, because this whole podcast is sponsored by different companies. And I want to say a massive thank you to the Griffin Inn in Newquay, who do the most amazing, banging Sunday carvery and amazing food for the rest of the week. I don't know if you've ever been there, but if you haven't, it's a hot tip for you ladies to go there. Take the people in your life that mean the most to you, take them there on a Sunday. They will not be disappointed. So a massive thank you to Steve and everyone at the Griffin Inn. Now, this episode is what is imposter syndrome and overcoming it. Laura, I'm going to come to you straight away on this. What is imposter syndrome?
The imposter syndrome is essentially a cognitive distortion. It causes people to doubt their accomplishments, making them feel like they faked their success. It's thought that probably 70 to 80% of us experience it at some point. And the research shows that women are more likely to experience it than men.
It's interesting, I mean, I remember my early journey when I first started out singing, and I was always like, I don't know if I can do it. But there was a chap called Martin Bate, unfortunately he's passed on now, but he kind of, inspired me and kept telling me you can do it. So I guess those little bits of doubt in the early Shane Solomon were there. But, it's a big thing, right? There's a lot of people that probably doubt themselves. And, what about you? Have you ever experienced anything like imposter syndrome, Sophie? What's your story with imposter syndrome?
Yeah, definitely. I think starting off Girls in Cornwall, I didn't really have a knowledge of where it could be, where I could take it, until people started following my journey and being really supportive of me. So, yeah, I think, definitely something I've experienced, and I am really kind of thankful for having that, because it's enabled me to be able to support other people who are going through it and be able to spot that and give them opportunities that I wish people reached out to me with.
So, Laura, people listening to this or watching this, in fact, on YouTube and thinking, well, I experienced this. What can they do today? What can they do to take a step and take action to overcoming this?
Okay, so everything always starts with awareness. And I would say bring in mindfulness into your day. So whether that's meditation or journaling, get to the point where you can really start to recognize your triggers is always going to help you. And then there's lots of different strategies that you can take to overcome imposter syndrome. And you might try one, you might try them all, but it's worth probably going for them all. One in particular would be to make sure that you're aware of your inner critic, because it's always there. And we need to become our own best cheerleader. We need to look at our strengths and we need to celebrate them more often. I would say another way of overcoming imposter syndrome would be to try not to compare your journey to other people.
Yeah, it's a big one for sure.
You are on your own lane. My journey to Sophie's journey is going to be completely different. It's like comparing apples and pears. So you need to stay in your own lane at all times and try not to get distracted by what other people are doing. And I'd say developing like a growth mindset is really important. So do you know that phrase, I'm going to fake it till I make it?
I certainly do.
Yeah, I like it. I get where it's coming from. But actually, if you're saying that, and a day that you're not feeling that good about yourself, you're going to feel like a fake because you've already said that you're faking it.
Sure.
Whereas with growth mindset, you look at it differently and you can say, well, I'm not where I want to be yet, but you know what? I have so much passion. I really, really want to put everything into this, and I'm going to do what I can to make sure I'm going to get there. So I'm going to teach myself what I need to learn and all those sort of things.
And I think people respect that better, I think, when people see the real journey. I think when people are honest and say, do you know what? Because you get some people say at business, they'll say, how's business? Oh, yeah, I'm busy, stacked, flying, great. But really underneath, they're like swans on the surface with their legs kicking under the water. But if you turn around and say, do you know, actually, I'm struggling a little bit. It's not exactly on course, but I'm taking these steps to get there.
Exactly.
I think people respect that more as opposed to the BS that some people come out and say, especially on social media where everything's great. And to be honest, I'm kind of guilty of that. But then I do live a kind of positive mindset journey myself. And you always get the kind of knockbacks, but it's how we get over them, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. And that's something that I've really tried to push with my networking events, Girls in Cornwall Business. I want it to be a really safe space for people to talk about their challenges. I don't want it to be a place where people come and brag and talk about all the things that have gone really well. There's a space for that. There definitely is. But it means so much to people to have someone that they can be honest with and share their challenges with. Not just for themselves, but the kind of the tone that then that sets. And that's really, really important to me, to make people feel that they're not the only one that's facing those challenges.
There's a great saying a friend of mine told me once, and that is, Shane, all that glitters isn't gold, So you look at people and say, it's all right for them. It's all right for them, because it looks on the surface great. But underneath, they could be having problems. They could have imposter syndrome. They could have all these different things. They could have cash flow issues. And that's one thing in business, that it's not easy. And even if you look at some of the top performing entrepreneurs, even in this country, they're still on the grind and going to work. They don't just sit back and think, I'm done now. It's a constant kind of journey that we're on. So I want to talk about networking in Cornwall for the ladies, for the women. You seem to be very buoyant, you ladies, at the moment at networking in Cornwall. What's your kind of thoughts on that?
Yeah, so networking in Cornwall is a great place to be for that. I think that it's so important that we create networking spaces that aren't about just bragging and talking about all the things that have gone really well for us, but being vulnerable as well and talking about the challenges that we're facing. And a lot of the time, I think it helps to make much better, deeper connections.
It really does. And Lauren, your take on networking here in Cornwall, and you ladies in what you could say has been a male-dominated business world maybe, what's your thoughts on it?
I think it's really interesting because I went along to one of the network events the other night, and was it 40 people were there.
Yeah.
And I went away thinking, wow, that's 40 women that I mean, they may not all have been entrepreneurs, but 40 women that want to be their own boss. They want to be successful in their own business. And I thought that was really interesting, because I feel like things are shifting a little bit, and maybe women do still feel very underrepresented in those leadership roles in the bigger organizations, but they still want that for themselves. So they're going out and they're getting it for themselves.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And Sophie, your business, just to let the listeners and viewers know what you actually do and how they can get involved.
Yeah, so there's two elements to what I do. Started off with Girls in Cornwall, which was just a way for people to make friends, and that's absolutely taken off. We're doing all sorts of events, from brunches to surf lessons and everything in between. And then, as we were saying, people were feeling lonely because of working on their own. And then that's how the networking side was born, which is Girls in Cornwall Business. So we do all sorts of networking events around Cornwall, some traditional and some a little less traditional, like speed networking.
Yeah, amazing. And Laura? So
yeah,
people know what you do.
Okay. I'm a qualified life coach. I've been coaching for 2 years now. I did come from a marketing and project management background. I worked in lots of big organizations and corporate companies, and I felt like I wanted to do something a bit more fulfilling. I really wanted to make a difference to people's lives. I wanted to walk away at the end of the day feeling like I really made an impact. And the journey so far has been incredible. The amount of change I've seen through people through the coaching is phenomenal. And it there's not a better feeling at the end of the day to think that you've helped someone to get where it is that they want to be.
What a pleasure. Now, I want to know what your kind of last parting words would be to inspire the audience. We're putting this Morning Mojo out there to inspire, to motivate people when they start their day, when they're on the journey. So if you're listening, watching on the way to work, or whether you're at home, or whether you're in the office having a cheeky listening with the earbuds in, I want to leave the people listening and watching with a bit of oomph, So, Sophie, I'm going to come to you first. What would you say to people listening and watching that will help them on their journey, wherever that may be, to kind of inspire them and give them their kind of morning mojo and say, right, that is it. Here we go.
So just before we started the podcast, we were all talking about our background. And I think what links the three of us is that what we're doing is born out of our passion. So I'd say follow your passion. And we also touched on, we didn't know how those things were going to bring us an income at the time. We just knew that we had to chase them. So if you've got a dream, something you're really, really passionate about, go for it and figure out the rest later.
Absolutely. I love that. And that so resonates with me, because that is exactly my background in the story. And I remember daydreaming at school, out the window in science class with all the Bunsen burners going over there, but I didn't care about that. I didn't want to be a scientist. I was looking out that window and I was dreaming, holding this microphone and singing for a living. And it was one of those things I really was passionate about it. And everyone kept saying, you can't do that, Shane. You can't do that. You need to become an accountant. You need to do a proper job. And I don't know why, but I was lucky to be wired a little something to do that and follow the passion. So I'm a big advocate for that. And I absolutely resonate with that a lot. Laura, to you, your kind of parting words of wisdom.
Yeah, I would say whatever it is that you're working on, just don't give up, because so many people do. And, it can be tough. It's a journey. One of my favourite quotes by Jake Humphreys on the High Performance podcast, actually, he says that successful people fail more than anybody. And I think that's so important to understand how your relationship with failure and looking at it in a different way and seeing it as an opportunity for growth and an opportunity to learn something. It's not something to hold you back.
It's so, so true. Never, 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 never give up. Winston Churchill said that, and it is so true. And again, I resonate with that. Ladies, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the very first episode of Morning Mojo. My thanks to Megan for getting in touch with you guys and making this happen. Have you enjoyed it? I mean, it's your first podcast, right?
Thank you.
Yeah, my first podcast, and we were just saying how I've really wanted to get on some podcasts this year. So thanks very much for having me.
Oh, it's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you so much. The same. It was something that we manifested. We really wanted to be on a podcast, and here we are, living the dream.
I love that word as well. That's another episode altogether. And perhaps, once we go full circle, 12 months, we'll get you back on, find out where you are. That sort of thing would be great.
Yeah.
Well, my thanks to the Griffin Inn at Newquay for sponsoring this episode. Like I said, they do the most amazing carvery. It's ridiculous. It's childish how good it is. Get down there. I'm sure they do vegetarian options, all the rest of it. So check them out. They've got wonderful accommodation there as well. But if you're not already following these ladies, make sure you do. I'm assuming, I should never assume I know, but you're both on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Yes.
So people can search you on there.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to drop your email address? You happy to say what your email address is as well if people want to contact you?
Absolutely. Yeah. My email address is girlsincornwall@gmail.com.
Fantastic.
Okay. And I'm the expandedlifecoach.co.uk.
Fantastic. Well, there you are. Thank you very much for listening to the first episode of Morning Mojo. I've been Shane Solomon. You've been the wonderful listener and viewer. My thanks, as always, to Megan, Jay, and the wonderful team here at Corker Media. We'll see you on the next episode.